Harry's wife. Is that all you've got? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Prince Harry's forthcoming memoir has accidentally, in inverted commas, provided lots of early observations about its content as a consequence of the early sale of the Spanish version, which many British newspapers have immediately snapped up and have quickly found somebody that can speak both Spanish and English and translated it for the purposes of letting us know what the Duke of Dim-Wittedness wants us all to know. And the disclosures have been coming thick and fast, and today is no different, with plenty to laugh at, analyse, and of course consider vis-a-vis the and his wife. The early provision of this information has been painted as an accident. It's not. That was deliberately done, and undoubtedly was either following the advice of PR people or, more likely, as a consequence of Harry's wife's hunger for those prime aims by ensuring that there was an early release of the information to create a feeding frenzy of information to stir up interest. Ooh, look at this. He had a shag behind a pub in a field. Ooh, he had a fight. There was a kick-off in the kitchen with Big Willie. Gosh, if this is some of the detail in it, then let's lay our hands on a copy. Harry's wife doesn't care, as I've explained in parts passim, how this makes her husband look. Indeed, it works to her advantage to have him appear like a loose cannon and a dim-witted orangutan. In fact, I'm probably insulting orangutans there, who goes off on these weird rampages of recollections of things that he's done, and then feeling a need to tell everybody about it. Of course, he's bought in to the ethos of Harry's wife, which is, Harry, tell everybody how you feel. That way you gain closure. That's so important to get. And of course, he wants to please her, as he's in her grip, and he has seen the dark side of her because he's in a sustained devaluation. He has experienced when she has lashed out at him, and he doesn't want more of that. He wants to keep her on side because he's actually afraid of her. He might have killed 25 members of the Taliban, but he shits himself when the demonic Duchess rolls into the living room or wherever he happens to be hiding. The release of the information in Spain was deliberate. I was listening to a publisher yesterday on Radio 4 who was explaining that it was more than likely that that was done to create a sense of occasion and build up the excitement ahead of the launch next week. He, in both launches, was not taken in by the suggestion that it was an accident. He explained that with these things, quite simply, with his own publishing house, with his own network, they already have copies of Spare, and he explained that they're boxed up in a stockroom marked "Do not open until," and then the relevant date. And he said it's quite simple to follow that. If you somehow put the break, then you really have to be some kind of simpleton. Well, fortunately, Harry wasn't in charge of putting out the books in Spain, and therefore it's more than likely that it was a deliberately sanctioned act which was done as part of an orchestrated scheme to increase interest in the publication. And it certainly worked, because news networks, broadcasters, media, they're all talking about these ridiculous disclosures. Of course, as a consequence of commentary on it, it behooves us to see what Hilary Rose of The Times has to say about it all. And she goes with the headline, "William told Harry that Harry's wife was difficult. Is that all he's got?" Let's see what else she has to write. "Happily, I was sitting down when I read the news that Prince Harry is miffed. The first snippets of his upcoming book, Spare. I was ready to sum them up as, good grief, Harry, yada yada, whatevs. And that is exactly how abridged versions of the book could read when it is finally published next week. In the meantime, though, I give you a genuinely surprising nugget. First, let's deal with the unsurprising things. It is not surprising that Harry reacted with maturity and grace under fire when William threw a punch at him. Physical violence is obviously always abhorrent, but Harry is all grown up now, remember? 38 years old with 2 children, 16 bathrooms, and only occasionally still moaning on global TV that Daddy doesn't pay the bills. Who knows? Maybe 2023 will be the year he doesn't mention that at all. Or that he can't get 24/7 Met police protection as a private citizen in California. Or not. Nor is it surprising that Harry's wife greeted news of the fraternal row with sad, statesmanlike calm, as Harry claims. As keen students of Harry's wife's life and times know, when they go low, she goes high. And after 2 years of post-Megxit bitterness, umpteen bitter interviews, several bitter books, 2 rescue dogs and a chicken coop, we can unite in agreeing that their behaviour has at all times embodied statesmanlike maturity and grace under fire. No, the surprising thing is that William told Harry that Harry's wife was difficult. Difficult? Is that all he's got? I've listened to all of Harry's wife's podcasts. I've watched 6 hours of the H&M Netflix Whinge-a-thon. I've read all the reports about the Sussex Survivors Club and the allegations of bullying, which she denies, and yet, strangely, she has never demanded, at the point of a writ, that Buckingham Palace publish the report into the allegations which presumably exonerates her in full. Perhaps she's just working through the rest of her legal to-do list. Anyway, I have tallied up all the staff who left their employment in England under the sunniest of circumstances to pursue exciting opportunities elsewhere, and who now call themselves the Sussex Superfan Club. And I thought to myself, yes, difficult is definitely the strongest word William could have used. That's exactly what everyone else was thinking. Having said all of which, I do feel, for the first time, the merest twinge of sympathy for the couple, Hilary Rose writes. No, wait, hear me out. If you take all the noise away, and all the Cain and Abel sibling rivalry stuff that their mother would have sorted out in 5 minutes by knocking their heads together, the bottom line is that Harry married someone his family and friends just didn't like very much. Everyone tried, but to no avail. Maybe if Kate had been more of a hugger, it might have been different. We've all been there. We all have friends who married people we'd rather they hadn't, but there we are. The difference with Harry is that it gets written about, and instead of ignoring it, he picks at it like a saw. In the book, he apparently accuses William of not liking Harry's wife because he was swayed by horrid stories about her, missing the obvious point. Why would William need to read them? He'd met her. Supposedly, we can look forward to Harry talking about the difficulties of being the spare, but he said himself he never wanted to be the heir. So, which is it to be, Harry? The answer is spread over 416 pages, and yay for that. He offers his customary insightful analysis into key moments of his life and grudges he would like to settle, this time about the Nazi fancy dress costume he wore in 2005. He blames William and Kate, held the front page, and effectively says, they made me do it. He was 20 at the time. In a trailer for the Tom Bradley ITV interview, Harry says there's a lot to discuss with his family, and he really hopes they're willing to sit down and talk. I understand that the entire family is indeed clamouring to create more content for Netflix, with Princess Anne in particular keen to take part, wearing as many tiaras as she can fit on her head, just as soon as she's mucked out the horses. In her customary style, Hilary Rose takes the piss out of Harry and Harry's wife, and of course identifies yet more of the hypocrisies and contradictions that they engage in, and that are now also familiar to us. What do people below the line have to add? Kevin Williams writes, Harry is a sad loser who just needs to remove himself from the public eye, cease being set up as a patsy for the Markle Jet PR team, and, well, just grow up, you overprivileged waste of space. Malcolm Hockman, next up, the divorce. Harry's wife's own truth of how her one true love was denied her by the British monarchy. Book and film rights guaranteed. Made for life is Harry's wife. I.A. Rose. Harry seems intent on slamming door after door after door after door. The sad thing is, though, he fails to realise it, ultimately slamming them in his own face. Mrs. L. House. Let's face it, It's a total embarrassing farce. Even the most gossipy journalists must be cringing when they are told to put pen to paper and produce yet another article. But they are still doing it, and Harry's wife is rubbing her hands as the coffers fill. Harry, of course, has been told this is so therapeutic for him, so he will carry on, as he has exhausted every childhood squabble he has ever had, every slight, every upset. Michelle Hatwell, this has all descended into unsavoury and sadness. Harry and Harry's wife would have benefited greatly from the never complain, never explain motto. They'll be bankrupt in 5 years. Jude H. H needs more verbal ear-bashing from Princess Anne, who stands no nonsense. Does Earl Spencer ever speak to him after what he promised at the funeral of his sister, Diana? Much of the same, isn't it? All regarding him as an idiot that needs a good talking to, and of course very much in the grip of his wife and her behaviours. Whilst Hilary Rose takes the Michael out of him, it's apparent that she, like all other serious journalists, find this just utterly laughable. Yet Harry can't see it because he's caught in the fog that has been breathed around him by the dragon that owns him. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.